There are many places on Earth where natural conditions pose a deadly threat to humans. Sometimes the danger is obvious. Bottomless chasms, quicksand, rockfalls, whirlpools, unbearable heat or extreme cold. But there are also mysterious places where people dive frequently without any visible reason. Not far from the Egyptian resort town of Dahab, on the Sinai Peninsula, in the Gulf of Aqaba, lies a coral reef known as the Blue Hole. However, divers from all over the world who come here often call it the Devil's Well, a place said to lead straight into hell itself. The coastal cliffs nearby are covered with countless colorful flags, left in memory. Generally speaking, most divers are not a superstitious crowd. Yet they tell the famous Dahab legend with unmistakable enthusiasm. Long ago, according to the story, a promiscuous princess lived in this region. To ensure her lovers would never reveal her secrets, she ordered them drowned in this enormous coral well. When her father learned of his daughter's cruelty, he commanded that she herself be thrown into the Blue Hole. Before her death, the princess allegedly swore she would continue to claim victims. And ever since then, people have been disappearing here. From a geological standpoint, the site is highly unusual. The shoreline abruptly drops into a sheer reef wall, forming a vertical shaft plunging to a depth of more than 1,000 meters. Beyond its outer wall lies another abyss, descending past the 800-meter mark. At a depth of 54 meters, there is an archway that opens from the shaft directly into the open sea. Yet the bodies of missing divers have never been found beyond it. They vanished without a trace inside the Devil's Well itself. This mystery is often explained by the effects of compressed air at great depths. Under such conditions, divers may experience nitrogen narcosis and narcotic intoxication. Some feel intense dizziness, lose their sense of direction, and instead of ascending, sink even deeper. Others fall into a coma, drifting through the water with open eyes until the air in their tanks runs out. In extreme cases, divers begin to believe they are fish and attempt to breathe water. But then another question arises. Why don't the bodies resurface? After all, decomposition gases should eventually inflate the wetsuits and carry them back to the surface. Moreover, international diving regulations prohibit diving on compressed air below 40 meters. Professional deep-sea divers use special gas mixtures that do not cause narcotic effects. And yet, strange things continue to happen in the Devil's Well. Here is what a diver named Nikolai recounts about a dive that nearly cost him his life. Many people dive in the Blue Hole. Not all of them come back up. I almost became one of them. This is how it happened. We entered the water and agreed on the order of descent. We swam to the entrance of the shaft and began to dive. The fall was incredible. We were dropping at an unimaginable speed, 30 meters, 40, 50, 60. And then we saw this. Underwater ghostly boys with gray skin and empty eyes, tattered gray clothing floating in water, staring directly at the viewer, disturbing but cinematic, low-contrast lighting. At first, I thought they were wearing silver-colored wetsuits. But when we got closer, I realized it was the color of their skin. Completely silver, from head to toe. Without hesitation, we dove deeper to get a better look. The deeper we descended, the more their shapes began to change. They seemed to melt. And suddenly, beside us, there were no silver-skinned people anymore, but small children with empty eyes and gray skin. They wore ragged gray garments. They swam around us, staring straight into our eyes. Oh God, those eyes! That's when I felt overwhelming fear. I looked down and saw that the bottom was very close, and suddenly I understood where we were. I started banging on my tank to get my friend's attention, but it was already too late. They didn't feel the terror I felt. They were taking the children by the hands. Around one of us, the children formed a circle, and he liked it. He was smiling. I tried not to look them in the eyes. I started swimming upward, faster and faster. Then I heard music. It was definitely music. Or maybe not music, but a choir. Thousands of voices calling me to come back. My movements slowed again. The voices faded. I began sinking lower and lower once more. I tried to inflate my buoyancy vest, but my hands wouldn't obey me. The children started pulling me downward. Honestly, I could barely tell where up was and where down was anymore. I kicked with all my strength. At some depth, I heard the voices again. I covered my ears with my hands and swam upward. One last time, I looked down and saw a horrifying sight. My friends, as if on a conductor's cue, turned toward me at the same moment. I saw their faces, pure terror and human horror. I will never forget their expressions in that fatal moment. Only then did they realize what was happening. And then the children rushed at them all at once. There were hundreds of them. Within seconds, I could no longer see either the children or my friends. My vest inflated fully, valves hissing, and dragged me upward at tremendous speed. When I was hurled out of the underwater darkness, I saw blinding sunlight. After that, I remember nothing. Someone must have pulled me out. I wouldn't have surfaced on my own. My friends remained in the Devil's Well forever. A similarly tragic fate befell French divers Elaine and Paul. We reached a depth of 100 meters and decided to swim slowly and observe. Elaine recalled, we drifted about 15 meters apart. Suddenly I turned and saw Paul suspended in the water, shining the beam of his powerful underwater flashlight at a single point. I looked where he was staring. In a crevice between large rocks, I saw a strange, pale object. And then it moved. I remembered thinking, what kind of enormous fish is that? Is it dangerous? And then I was seized by terror. I realized it was a naked woman clinging to the rock. How? From where? That's impossible at a depth of 100 meters, without scuba gear. What happened next is a blur. The figure tore itself from the rock and lunged at Paul. In the flashlight beam, I saw a distorted, hateful, terrifying face. A split second later, the creature attacked Paul, knocked the flashlight from his hands, and dragged him deeper and deeper. I leaned against a rock and froze. I couldn't move my arms or legs. I was shaking violently. Breathing was difficult. My heart felt like it would burst from its frantic pounding. I looked toward the place where the two figures dissolved into bluish darkness. There was nothing left to see. Then I began to ascend. When Elaine reached the surface and, stammering in shock, told others what had happened, no one believed him. However, several hours later, a rescue expedition diving to a depth of 150 meters discovered Paul's wetsuit shredded to pieces. His body was never found. Later analysis revealed that the suit had not been torn by the teeth of any fish, but rather by something resembling human claws. And the force required to do so was unimaginable. Beautiful and alluring, the blue hole conceals a deadly danger. Professionals insist that its grim reputation is largely the result of irresponsible divers who entered the site without sufficient training or proper equipment. A memorial has been established on the shore in honor of those who died in the blue hole. However, due to the sheer number of fatal incidents, plaques bearing the victims' names are no longer installed. They scare tourists away. According to Egyptian authorities, the total number of deaths in the blue hole stands at 40. Local diving guides, however, believe the figure is deliberately understated, claiming the real number is at least twice as high.